Up next on Inspiring Beauty and Believers.
Nobody's taking a step. Everybody just kind of swaying. Like
Right.
somebody steps out and says, follow me, let's go.
Yep.
That's leadership. That's kingship. That's the life that we're supposed to be, pressing forward and showing to believers and non-believers.
So Shannon, I ain't had a chance to hear from you. So what's up? I want to hear it.
I'll say my thing that I keyed in on. I'm feeling a lot of what everybody's saying, what y'all two have said since y'all started talking. My biggest thing that keeps on coming to mind, and you kind of touched on it when you said about David, because David is one of those biblical characters, influences, whatever you want to call them, that I definitely identified a lot of the things I've learned in life from. One of the biggest things, and you just brought it up, was David was in the rear when kings should be at war. That told me a long time ago, when you are definitively in a leadership position and you are out of place, you will be potentially put in a position to compromise everything that you are supposed to be.
Come on, sir.
So go along with that, I can say for myself, as it deals with kingship and everything else, and I've been reading the Bible for a long time, since I was a young man, coming up. And one of the things that I learned as I got older and I got into the military was kind of keying in on another thing that you mentioned. When I went to boot camp, they had us kind of set for a period of time for like a week. I think it was 2 weeks. They had us set in this group because they had to wait for enough recruits to come in for us to actually start a cycle.
Same with me.
Yeah. So we go ahead, start doing that stuff. They need somebody to clean the bathroom. I was like, this recruit, I'll go ahead and I'll do it. Go ahead, run up in there, clean. Hey, we need somebody to clean the sink right here. Okay, I'll go ahead and clean it. Volunteer left, volunteer right, all that stuff. Got to my, we went ahead and we picked up. Everybody got in there, started. They were like, we need some squad leaders. So it's going to be Dondell, pick 3 other recruits, and then picked another one for the guide, for being like the main person that we all kind of maneuver off of and everything else. But that day, when all the other recruits ran out, drill instructor pulled me aside and looked at me in the eye. I was at parade rest. He said, "You know why I made you a squad leader?" And my answer, as profound as I would have loved for it to be, was because I can march, drill instructor, because I had done band for a while. I could march pretty well. I could keep a cadence, all that stuff. He was like, no, recruit, no. So then they went, yeah. So he was like, get out of my face. So I just went in, ran outside, didn't know about face, ran outside, all that stuff, whatever. But I always kept that question in mind. Why did they make you a squad leader? Why did they make you a squad leader? Later on, we go through boot camp. People get fired, people get hired. You're squad leader 1 second, getting smoked on the quarter deck. Next second, you're, in the back because they hate looking at your face. Like those types of things. The thing that I learned in that situation was the reason why they had placed me in becoming squad leaders because I wasn't afraid of work. And I wasn't afraid to show the other recruits around me that there's nothing wrong with volunteering. There's nothing wrong with getting your hands dirty. So they elevated me. Once I got that, all throughout the military, every single time there was an opportunity to go ahead and volunteer, I go ahead and volunteer. I'm like, I'm sitting around probably doing nothing anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and volunteer. Next thing I know, I'm getting meritoriously promoted. Next thing I know, I'm getting this. Next thing I know, I'm going ahead and I'm over here and I'm a team leader and I'm the youngest team leader they got. I'm 19, we got 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds that are under my charge. Next thing you know, I'm a platoon sergeant. I got a whole platoon full of people and I'm 22 years old and all this stuff and whatever. yes, I did a lot of hard work. Yes, I did a lot of physical stuff. But the stuff that I was doing was so I could better myself as I was going around out there. And number two, because I knew that other people needed to see there's nothing wrong with doing the hard work. There's nothing wrong with doing the late hours. There's nothing wrong for raising your hand when they need something. How does that switch over to the kingship? Just like you said, a king has to be willing to move with his people, especially at a time of war. You have to be willing to say, you know what, we're getting ready to go ahead and launch an attack on this, and I'm gonna be right there with you.
Yep.
So I know you're afraid, and I know you're scared to move in this direction, but know that I'm with you. So guaranteed, you shouldn't be afraid because I'm not afraid. You shouldn't be worried because I'm not worried. We're about to take this land. We're about to take this group. We're about to go ahead and get our land back, whatever it may be. But I'm with you. And that's why you shouldn't have a problem. And that all starts with this right here needs to be cleaned up. All right, why not? I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up.
That's good, man.
Why not? I'm gonna go ahead and do this. Because when you're in that kingship mentality and all that stuff that went from the military rolled into regular real life, we call it real life outside, but it rolled into real life. Like I go to whatever jobs I had before the position that I'm in now, and even in this position. But the reason why I'm getting recognized in this position and any of those other positions is because when they sit there and say, hey, we got this work, it's going to be hard, it's going to be a little bit long, arduous, whatever, but we know there's some people in here who can handle it, I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll take some of that on. No big deal. Some stuff that I probably never done before in my life. I know in the position I have right now, stuff that I've never done before. But I'm just like, you know what? You need some people who are going to work on this little super secret squirrel project or whatever. Okay, cool beans. I'll go ahead and I'll jump in. Have you done anything with this before? No. Shoot, like it is what it is, but I'm willing. That's the whole thing, willing. And then willing to show other people there's no reason to be scared of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that's when you run into the best of things in life anyway. But even being a king, that's how you show other people how to live their best life. When you're not afraid to actually show, you know what? There's nothing wrong with taking this hard route. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take the first step. Follow me. That's when people actually are like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take that step because he already took that step. Yep. And when there's nobody there to actually take that step, when everybody's kind of waning, like, yeah, we know it needs to get done, but I don't know, and everybody's going back and forth. Nobody's taking a step. Everybody just kind of swaying. Like somebody steps out and says, follow me, let's go.
Yep. That's
leadership. That's kingship. That's the life that we're supposed to be, pressing forward and showing to believers and non-believers.
When you was talking, man, I thought about something. You was talking about setting the example and stuff. And so I don't know, Shani, I don't know if you said something earlier, if you talked about like with our sons, but the one thing I think about, and y'all just gotta bear with me, man, but so when Mufasa was telling Simba, look, everything a light touches is our kingdom, right? Like he was establishing the domain, like, look, this is what we're responsible for. Like as every day when you walk with me, you're walking with me, serve these people. You're walking with me, protect the Pride Land. You know what I'm saying? Just in the story, in the metaphor's sake. But in our sake, I think establishing the identity in our sons is so big because, so let's say this, right? You can do your best to try to live holy, or you can establish an identity of holiness and watch your behavior fall in line. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a big difference between trying to measure up to something or taking on the identity of something and then beginning to reject everything that's anti that thing. And so like, if you start telling your sons like, no, son, if you tell your son, we're kings, this is what kings do. And that's what you reinforce every time you have to do some sort of correction to him. You bring him back to the identity and not so much the action. Like, no, son, like you ain't got to be kings. We powers, son. Powers don't do that. Powers are honest. Powers are men of integrity. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? We don't tell lies. And so you start establishing the identity and the culture of your kingdom, of your family. You know what I'm saying? So now when you draw him back to it, you're not just saying stop lying. No. This is why.
That's not what we do.
We don't. Yeah, that's not in our makeup. That's not our identity. Yeah. Is that of integrity. We don't do those things. And so as they get older, You know what I'm saying? The goal, he's 7, so I can't say it's working. But you know what I'm saying? The goal is that, you know, when he's 15, 16 and he's faced with peer pressure, you know, nah, man, I'm a power. We don't do that.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and not to say that he won't, you know, kids can be influenced by anything, but my objective is to seat in him such an identity that he's sure of himself and who we raised him to be, that he doesn't feel he needs to impress other people in order to fit in. If he don't fit in, good.
Right.
Yep.
What king is part of the crowd?
Exactly.
You know who kings roll with? Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And that group is finite.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so as we sharpen one another, that group should be finite. I mean, I want to set an example for people, you know what I'm saying? And I want to give people the opportunity to glean from me the same way people have given me the opportunity to glean from them. But my objective is to walk shoulder to shoulder with people where we push each other forward. Mm-hmm. And so prayerfully, that's, you know what I'm saying, the type of thing that we're doing with our sons is establishing in them the identity of who they are, and then drawing them back to that. Instead of correcting the behavior, it's more so drawing them back to the identity. The behavior will fall in line the more that they recognize who they are. If y'all can hear my kids in the back disrespecting this phone call to the heavens. I text my wife, like, can you please tell these kids to be quiet? They like right outside the door just screaming at each other. But
they like, Daddy just talking about being a king again. You know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I mean? It is whatever it is. Yeah.
But I really value that. I really think the identity is a big piece. It's the same thing, like I reference holiness, like trying to slap people into fitting in a box of holiness. Like, no, just let them know that God already sees them holy, blameless, and without a single fault, and that he already shed his blood for them. Let them identify with that. After a while, they'll be like, nah, I can't do that. That's not me no more. Give them the identity. The behavior will line up once they start to see themselves a particular way.
It's not coming from a place of condemnation. Like, I can't do that because I'm going to go to hell.
Yeah. Right. No, it's because that just don't identify with me no more.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I don't see people come off of mute. So I'm trying to contain my questions. So, but I seen people come off of mute. So I'm going to let y'all continue this conversation. To go ahead.
I just had something real quick.
Go ahead.
Okay, so one of my things was, the thing about it is, a king is not interchangeable. Everybody else really is. So when you in kingship type situation, when we're talking about jobs, it just reminded me, I used to own a call center, right? And as the owner, so check this out. I cleaned toilets, I vacuumed, I trained, I was HR, I was everything, right? I literally was, from beginning to end, I was doing everything. And people was like, well, why are you doing this? Well, number one is my business. So check this out. If I hire a secretary, right, to do something, number one, I need to know how to train her. And number two, if I need to let her go, I need to know how to do it. I need to know how my whole business runs from top to bottom, how it happens. So like you was talking about the stable boy, I need to know every job in my kingdom in order for my kingdom to maneuver and function the way that I want it to do. Because if I put somebody else in charge, they can leave, or they not doing it, or I can't train nobody if I don't know. I'm dependent on somebody else. The king has to be the one all at some point. You know, I can train somebody to do it. I can do I can set that up. But check this out. If you slide, because it's not your kingdom, it's not your responsibility. So you slide out and you move out. Am I going to be stuck like Chuck, or am I going to be able to maneuver into that position and be like, all right, we still got it. We still good until I find somebody to come back in here. I just need to know. So that's just another thing as far as being the kingdom. You got to know from the lowest person to the top what every single person is doing. Because another thing is, I can't even look and say if you're doing a good job or a bad job unless I know how to do it myself. So my reps, if they weren't doing sales or something like that, and they'll complain and say, well, the leads are bad or this is bad, I'll hop on the phone and show them. I know how to do this too. You know what I mean? I know how to do this thing too. So, and if there was something wrong, I could go in and be like, yeah, you know, that's right. Something is wrong with that. We need to fix it. but it's because I've been through the process as well. But that's part of being a king as well. That's all I wanted to say on that part. But yeah,
that was good, D. Because I'm glad you painted that picture, because I know that most of us did, and that's why I love this forum, because everybody gives their different perspective and fills in what we miss. Because I'll tell people about, the sacrificing and all that, but nobody really knows, as being a king, how much stuff you oversee 24/7, and how when you tired or not, you got to hop in to make it do it. Because if you don't do it, it don't get done in that aspect if that piece is missing. You know what I'm saying? And then I also like that he emphasized the fact of that it ain't somebody else's vision. So sometimes people get upset when somebody doesn't see their vision as your vision, or get upset somebody doesn't follow the vision. It's not their vision. If theirs doesn't line up with your vision, they're not going to stay and withstand in that, right? So I really appreciate you giving that information, because people don't understand about being a king. It's a lot of work all the time. You know what I'm saying? Just in your household in general, making sure that the bills are on top and all that, and your kids and their school. At one point, people was working from home and becoming teachers all in one day. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm one of them, you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of us had to do it. Like, bro, and if you know what I'm saying, you ain't did that math in a while, you be like, man, hold up. Like, damn, I need to go back to school. That's third grade. Like,
these are the devil's numbers.
No, that's when you be like, listen, go on YouTube. They can show you how to do it.
I was on YouTube with them, like, we're going to learn together, baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, real talk. But no, I wanted to ask y'all this, man, and I'm going to just back off for a minute. I wanted to talk about forgiveness from the aspect of king. And you can give two perspectives. I want you to, in the aspect of with the decision-making of forgiveness, an aspect of others as well as yourself. So I'm going to throw that back on y'all. But I wanted to ask people, as a king, forgiveness. How do you see it? And I'll come back after, but I want to hear your perspective. And I'm putting myself on mute.
I'm going to just sit back.
I'll jump in on this one. I have a very maybe controversial view as it deals with forgiveness. Like, people look at me, and some of y'all know my relationship with my ex, like all that type of stuff. Like, obviously, because she's an ex-wife, the stuff that happened that I did, stuff that happened that she did. Like, I do my best to just let all that stuff go. Not to hold on to that stuff, not to sit there and be like, well, you did this that one time back in 94. Be like, come on, man. We got one shot at this thing, and time is real short. So as just within myself, just as myself identified as a king, if you want to call people subjects in your kingdom, you may want to call them associates or whoever, or employees or whatever it may be, or whatnot. I literally just don't hold stuff against people. Like, I will not necessarily let every single thing ride, because obviously as a king, you need to know, like, this will get your head cut off. This right here will get you put in prison.
Right.
One, you'll still be alive. The other one, I'm going to make sure everybody sees, so you still have to have your standard as it deals with that. And I truly do believe that. Now, my standard normally is to allow people to be themselves, not trying to make them anything that I want them to be or anything like that. I have my expectations of what I expect of the people around me and expect out of the people that I involve in my life and all that. When somebody may fail to deliver on those expectations, 16 hours. If they are
you and Siri I don't know. Every time. When somebody may have they may have a problem reaching that expectation or whatever it may be, and I do have to check them. Like, I have to go through my list of, is this World War III nuke the world level, or is this just, allow this person to be them and learn and grow? Is this just who they are? Was it the situation? Whatever it is, the character flaw, what is this? Because I do believe that everybody, especially when you're in leadership and when you're throwing that into kingship, you have an obligation to do
everything you do from an unemotional location. There's nothing emotional that you can sit there and do. You go into war and you're fighting, you pull out your sword, you pull up your shield. There is no, I'm all emotional. They trying to come against me. They killed my, unemotional in that scenario. Because the more emotional you get, the more emotional people around you get. And the more emotional those people get that are around them and everything else. You have to do all the stuff you do as much as you can from an unemotional level, which means that you have to have stipulations on what the things are that you will allow and what you will not allow. So when you're sitting there and you're asking about forgiveness, I believe everybody deserves every amount of forgiveness that they walk up and ask you for. Am I going to hold, even if somebody doesn't ask me for it? Am I going to sit there and hold them down and all this stuff and whatever? No, I'm just not going to mess with them like that. It just is what it is. But if it's a forgiveness level of anything, if somebody walks up to me after something's happened, depending on what it is, because as I stated, some things require your head to be chopped off. But if it isn't that level of whatever, and they go ahead and they come over and they throw themselves in front of me like, hey, I truly apologize. I really didn't want that to happen. I didn't mean it. I didn't blah. I didn't whatever it may be. So my view on forgiveness is you offer up as much forgiveness as you can, especially as it deals with other people, because you're not going to be perfect in every single thing you do. And every single thing you say and every intention that you have and all that stuff, and whatever may be great, but it might cause great harm. Like, as it deals with forgiveness, I freely give it to people, especially when they ask me for forgiveness. I freely give it to them. If they don't even ask me for it, I still do my best to go ahead and give them that forgiveness. I may remove myself from their presence. I may remove myself from anything having to do with them, but I still spiritually give them that forgiveness, so it's not hindering me, and hopefully it's not hindering them. So that might have been a little bit long-winded, but that's my thing.
I don't know if there's a short-winded person on this call.
I don't think so either. That's okay.
So you right at you rubbing shoulders with kings, brother.
That's what's up. Right.
Well, can I share my grace and mercy is a lot easier to say than to actually apply and live out. A couple of weeks ago, I had it out with our oldest son, and I'm very proud of myself. I didn't cuss him out. Came very close to punching him almost, but I really just sat on the side of the table and I just tried to have a conversation with him. And my wife and I were talking to him. I wanted him just to understand where we were coming from. And I asked him after we finished telling him what the rules were. I said, do you understand? He says, yes. I said, if you disagree with anything, it doesn't change anything on our part, but you're free to tell us if you disagree. And he said with attitude, nope. And my wife just right away, Caleb, you can't talk to your dad that way. And I got up and my wife just said, babe, I took a couple steps forward and I took a couple steps back. Well, I took about 4 more steps forward and I got in his face pretty much, and I was literally trying to talk and cry and not cry at all at the same time. And I kept thinking to myself, I was a little boy at one time. I was a young boy at one time, and I had to, and I haven't always been like this with my son. There are times I would have really gotten in his face and probably wanted to do something to him. But I had to think to myself, I had to practice grace, mercy, forgiveness. I said, son, you need to go into the room. You need to get on your knees. You need to pray. You need to repent and ask God to forgive you for how you're talking to me right now. But I had to really just stop and ask myself, would I want someone to show me some grace and mercy? Now, there are consequences for your actions. I wanted him to think about what he had said, what he had done, and give him a chance to gather his thoughts and realize, hey, you know what, I'm wrong. And someone told me a while back, that forgiveness, it doesn't exonerate the person that has done you wrong. Forgiveness is for me, it's for you. Because I can hold this grudge against my son or against someone else, and not forgive them. That person can move on with their lives and be happy. But I'm sitting here angry, pissed off, mad, but my emotions did not get the best of me at that time. You know, I thought about it, came in the room, laid down. My wife came in. She can clearly see that I still was upset. And she asked me if I was okay. I said, I'm not okay, but let me just sit here and let me just gather my thoughts, go to sleep, you know. But forgiveness is really, it's tough, you know. And I always think about the forgiveness that Christ has shown me. Of all the sins that I've committed, I'm still alive right now. You know, if I can be honest and open and real, you know, sexual sins that I've committed, different women that I've slept with. I don't have HIV. I don't have AIDS. You know, I don't have any of that, you know, and I'm here to tell the story right now today. But God forgave me for every single sin that I've committed. It does not say that forgiveness is an easy thing to do, but I really believe that it's something that we should all try practicing to the best that we possibly can. And what better example as kings, if we can show to our followers, people that we lead, how we can exemplify grace and mercy to someone. If the king can do it, you know, then I can do it too. You know, and if I'm wrong, I lose my cool sometimes, you know, I can come back and humbly say, I apologize. I was wrong. This is what I did. This is how I should have responded to you and I didn't. Will you forgive me? And regardless if they accept my forgiveness, regardless if they apologize to me for what they've done, the Lord says that vengeance is mine, you know, and I have to believe that God's going to take care of that individual, regardless if I see it done or not. You know, we want to see people suffer for what they've done wrong to us. And we want to be the one to, you know, make them suffer for what they've done. But again, God says that vengeance is mine. But just really with children, and you mentioned the ex, you know, and I can sit here and name a million different things that my ex has done wrong to me and things that I've done wrong to her, you know, and at the end of the day, I had to look in the mirror and say, you know what, whatever it is that she had done wrong to me, I allowed it. I was not being the man that I should have been, the king that I should have been. I kept my mouth shut. I tucked my tail in between my legs and I was quiet when I should have spoken up. I allowed that. So I had to look at myself and say, number one, I forgive me for being weak.
Exactly.
You know, and go to her and say, you know what, I forgive you as well too. And please forgive me for not being this man that I should have been with you all along, you know, and shake the dust off my feet and keep on moving, you know. And I'll end this by saying this here, the story about Jonah. You know, I felt a lot of guilt separating from my ex, you know, because I was the provider at the time. I was the one that made the majority of the money. I took care of her. And when I told her she had to go, the enemy would always tell me that, you know, she's going to suffer. She's going to be sleeping in her car by herself, you know, but I had tried all I could to make that work, to help. You know, I tried all I could, you know, and I remember if I'm telling the story correct, when Jonah was in that boat, you know, Jonah was running from God and they all cast lots, you know, it's the reason why this storm is the way it is. And that they cast lots and they pray, you know, you're the reason why, Jonah. And Jonah knew that he was the problem, but still did not voluntarily just dismiss himself from that boat. And so they prayed, God, this is a man of God here, one of your own. If we throw this man out of his boat, you're going to make us suffer for it, you know. But they made their peace with God and Jonah had to go, you know, and guilt is not of God. I felt a lot of guilt by making her leave or telling her she had to go. But I had to come to an understanding that, you know, I tried all I could. I had to draw a line in the sand and I had my own standards, things that I live by. That worked for me, and she just didn't want to be a part of that. She didn't want to follow my leadership as a king, as a head of a household. And again, I had to apologize to her for not being this man when you first met me, not telling you that I love God and and showing you that, you know, by my actions. But I was quiet, very, very quiet, very, very soft, very, very weak, you know, but just to say, you know what, you have to go. You have to go and not feel bad about that. I love you. I forgive you. I pray that you forgive me for what I've done to you. And it was just that for me, you know, but God gave me the strength and courage to do that. And I'm grateful for that. But I forgive her to this day. Now we can get into it from time to time. No, we can. But at the end of the day, I have to take a deep breath and realize, you know what, she's on whatever journey, she's on whatever boat that she's on, and God is working with her, same way that he's working with me. And I offer that grace and mercy to her, and I pray that she forgives me for whatever I've done to her as well. And that's my forgiveness.
Subscribe so you don't miss next week's video.
Y'all don't know, but I know the magnitude to which I have blown it in my walk with Christ.
Man, brother.
The magnitude to which I have literally been the reason that the Gentiles look down on the kingdom. You understand what I'm saying? Like, been a single point of contact, like, see that right there? That's why I don't mess with the church, because people like him. I've blown it at that level. And it did not cost me eternity. It did not cost me my relationship with the Father. And it did not cost me my purpose. If I can blow it at the level I blew it, and these things are still intact, and I'm supposed to be like him, my objective is to be as much like him as possible, then nah, brother, there's nothing that you can do that is unforgivable.
Yep.
I have to be able to forgive you.